Hi team. So I welcome you in this really exciting journey of generative AI. We are going to explore some really good practical use cases of generative AI through Gemini. But first, let's try to have a quick discussion on what is generative AI. A field of AI which is used to create some really original content. Okay, that means there is no copyright. It will not copy from anywhere. It will create absolute new content. Okay, like for example, if I had given an article to you, okay, and after that I asked you to create a summary out of it. So based upon the study, based upon the learning that you gain from the article, you create a summary in your own word. So that means you're generating a summary. Generative AI is similar to that. It is an AI which is designed to generate or create original content from the pattern it learned from the existing data. Okay, like because before it is AI, artificial intelligence, obviously it is being trained. Okay, it is trained on some existing data, some which can be a text, which can be image, which can be audio, which can be video. So once it is trained, based upon the training, based upon the learning it is having, it will try to generate a new content. It can be image, text, audio, video, anything. That is what generative AI. Generative AI is based out of one of the major thing that is called LLM, large language model. So LLM is, you can say, it's a core engine behind a generative AI. Large language model is what this is called, large language model. If a particular model is trained on huge set of data, so that in future it can generate something new, right? Like our brain is also like a large language model. We had been trained on so many, we studied so many books in our life, we studied in colleges, in schools. So our brain is having so many information stored. Okay, that's why if someone will ask us to respond in a particular way, if someone will ask us that, okay, tell me about your country, so we know how, what is my, like, in which country we live, what are the places to visit in my country, what are the good things in my country, so I can explain, right? I can generate the content, right? Same way a generative AI is using LLM that is being trained on very large scale of text data, which is data from Wikipedia, from Google, from different resources, right? From books, right? So it's a core engine, okay, behind generative AI for text-based application. They are trained on vast database and can generate human-like responses. That is called LLM, right? Now there are multiple LLMs that are there in the use. One is called GPT that we use so much, like all of you must have used sometime, or if you have not used, it is called Generative Pre-trained Transformer. OpenAI developed it, right? And it powers Chat GPT kind of platform. Okay, it excels in text generation and reasoning, right? So GPT is something which is a technology behind Chat GPT. Okay, and Chat GPT we use for what? For generation of text, images, and everything, right? That we want. Then Gemini, it is from Google. Okay, and it is again a multimodal thing which is integrated with the Google tools. We are going to use this thing. Okay, Llama, it is again open source, developed by Facebook or Meta, right? So it is open weight model. That means these are closed source, right? These are what? Closed source. This one is closed source, right? But this is open source. Llama you can install in your own system. Llama you can use independently without internet. To use GPT or Gemini, you need internet. You need to connect with the server of Google or server of this guy, OpenAI, right? So using API, we just get connected with the LLM model, which LLM model is sitting in someone else's computer, right? That's why for using these, we requires what? Internet, right? Because the LLM model is not sitting in my system, it is sitting in someone else's system. So to connect with that system, we require internet and API. Llama can be used offline. I can download in my system and can use it without internet. That's why it is called open source model. In coming future, I will try to also create some of the tutorial videos on Llama. Cloud is there. It is developed by Anthropic. Focus on alignment, safety, and conversational context. It is used, highly used for coding and all. Mistral is there. It is very lightweight. It is again open source. You can install Mistral and you can use it. Today, we are going to focus on Gemini, which is closed source. Okay. In coming days, I'll try to create some of the tutorial on open source as well. Right. So let's move ahead with the Gemini. So how can we use Gemini? See, to use Gemini, first of all, you need what? You need the API, right? So how can you have the API? See, you can just go to Gemini. So if you want to use Gemini, there is a user interface. Okay, here you can give any prompt, right? And this guy will give you the response. Okay, like tell me few idea on a startup in the field of health technology. Okay, so like this, right? But this is a user interface kind of thing, a UI kind of thing, which anyone can use. Okay, suppose I want to add this feature into my own application. Suppose I am creating a kind of a web app, right? Or I am creating a kind of a phone application, a smart application. Okay, like kind of thing. Okay, and I want to add this feature into my own application. Okay, or suppose I have my own data. Okay, suppose I have my own data, right? Like suppose I have a data of my company, of my organization. Based on that data, I want to create a chatbot, okay, with which user can interact, okay, and get the response. Okay, so what can you do for that case? Like there is a product I made, and about that product, like then that product is having some feature, warranty, price, everything. I just want to mention in a particular data file, right? And using the data file, I want to create a chatbot, right? So how can you do that? Because this Gemini had been trained on some specific set of data. Now this guy is not having the information from my own organization, okay, of my own product. Suppose I created a product, this Gemini is not knowing about my product, so this guy can't respond, right? So there are a lot of different things. There are a lot of areas where we need to use Gemini, but we can't directly use. We need to be a developer, right? So what we are, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to explain you some very really interesting kind of labs that we work upon. We are going to first understand Gemini and the API of it. Okay, we are going to understand over here Gemini and the API of it for text generation. All right. Thereafter, Gemini API we will use to describe an image. That means we'll create an application where we can upload an image, and Gemini, using Gemini API, we will let it explain the image, like what are the informations, whatever the things that are present in the image that it will try to explain. All right. Then we'll create a custom chatbot using our private data, right? Our own data. That data Gemini is already not knowing. Okay. It is called what? You are having the pre-trained model. The pre-trained model you are having is what? That is Gemini, right? You are already having a pre-trained model Gemini. Now we are fine tuning that model once again. Okay, here we have to fine tune the model once again using our own private data, so that this guy can get trained on my data to response using my data, to make a response using my own data, right? Then we'll create a user interface for same, where the user can interact. Then we'll try to deploy it over the cloud, right? So that everyone can use it. And then this is really interesting. We will also try to integrate with our website. Like, in many website, you may have seen at the corner, there used to be a chat option. Okay. People used to click that, okay, and chat with the kind of a chatbot and resolve their problem, right? So it is going to be an end-to-end solution that we are going to build over here. So stay tuned and try to finish this whole learning journey. It is really going to be a very interesting journey in which by the end of it, you will have a project with you. All right. So let's move ahead. So first, we had seen this is a EY, but EY is limited for those set of data which is already used for training the Gemini. We need to see how can you use API. If I can use API, I can make maximum use of Gemini. So to have the API so that I can create my own application using Gemini power, right? I want to use the Gemini power to create my own application. So what we do, I will go to AI Studio. Okay, Google AI Studio, you can see over here. Nice. So once you have a AI Studio over here, you can go to get API key. Okay. Then you can just create API key. Okay. And here you can select Gemini API. and then create API key. Now your API key will appear over here. Just copy this API key and paste it somewhere. Okay, please don't lose it, right? Because once it is done, then after once it is created, right, thereafter if I will open this up again, I can't access that API key. Or let me check if you can access it or not. Most probably once it is created thereafter, okay, so key. Fine. So you can just view the key as well. Okay. But it's always recommended to copy and paste in one go. Okay. So that you should not lose. Right. But if you can click here, you can again access the API key from here. So API. Anyway, so once you have the API key, I'll just copy and paste this API key somewhere. And I will delete this API key after this tutorial because I don't want my API key to be used for any other purpose, right? So this is my API key. I have to use it. So how can I use it now? Okay, stay over here. Just a minute. Mm, Let me just paste the API key properly. Okay, later on come to it and I'll use this API key. Now I'll go to the coding environment. So I'll open up Colab. Okay, Colab is what? It's a Google-based tool, right? The Google tool to write data science, create a data science or machine learning kind of application or Python program. I'll open a new drive. Now here, I need to use the API of Gemini, right? So I need over here to import a library. Let me show you. Import Google dot generative AI as Gen AI. Okay, this is a library I required. But when I execute it, let's check if this library I can import or not. If I can't import, that means I have to install it. So I'll tell you the process of installing it. First, let it be executed. Thereafter, we'll see whether I can access this guy or I can't access this guy, isn't it? Still, it is connecting with the server of Google. So it may take a few more seconds. Now it connected and now it is trying to execute it. So let's see if it can execute it or not. Fine, it's executed. In your case, okay, or in any case, if it is not executing, do one thing, just run pip install. Suppose you are working on Jupyter Notebook or anywhere else. So just use pip install Google generative AI, right? Okay, just use this thing. Okay, so here it is not required because requirement is already satisfied. Okay, now once it is done, what you need to configure the API. This guy is used to configure your API. So genai dot configure. Okay, and here I have to give what? API key, right? So API key is equals to what? The API key that we just saved over here. Okay, so I'll copy this API key and I will use it over there, right? So I copy it, I go over here and I paste it over here. So now API key will get configured. Next, first, let's say I want to generate some text using this API key, using this Gemini API. But before I want to check what all models do we have. Okay, so for that I'll run a loop for m in GenAI dot list models. Okay, list models. Okay, so this guy will do what? Will help me to have a list of all the models, right? Here I have to give one more condition over here. If generate content, okay, if generate content in what? M dot, M is what? M will represent each model, right? So I'm just trying to access all the models which can generate the content. Okay, so M dot supported, SUPP supported generation methods. Okay, and then I'll just have the name of all the models. So this is how I can access the name of all the models that Gemini actually supports. Okay, so some of them are free, some of them are paid, right? So you can tune it and check it, right? Like for example, these are the very initial model, and these Gamma are also a kind of a open source model. Gamma you can install into your system, can use it. Okay, Gamma is an open source model of Google. These are closed source model. Okay, these you can't install into your system, can't use it, right? You have to install, you have to use only through API, right? So the latest version is 2.5. Okay, this one TTS means what? Text to speech. These guys are having text to speech kind of capability, right? So we are going to use some of the Flash, right? Because Flash is good for text generation. So how can we use it? First, I have to define the model. Model is equals to Gen AI dot generative model. Okay, Gen AI dot generative models, right? So dot generative model. And here we'll just define our models slash whichever the models that you want. Let's say I want to use this one, model 2.0 Flash. Okay. In case if it will not work, then we can choose some other model, right? So if it is, there are so many models, as I said, are free to use. There are so many models which are not free to use. Depending upon the situation, we can make use of it. Response will be equals to what? Model dot. So this line is just to define your model, okay, that you want to use. Define or choose your model for generation. All right. Then we have to use the next line for giving the prompt. Okay. So how can we give the prompt? Model dot generate content. Okay. And using this, we can give the prompt, right? So what prompt shall I give? Let's say write uh, or or provide me a startup idea in the field of AI in health tech. All right. Right. And thereafter, I'll print the response. Let's check what happened. Okay. So now this is a very first and simple application in which we had seen how can we make use of API of Gemini, right? So here model is defined. This one is for what? This one is for providing prompt. Okay. Now, if you see here, so many informations are there, right? I don't want all this information. I only want this text, right? So you only want the text, so I can use response.text. All right. So when I use it, I'll get the text over here. Only the text that will be captured from here. Okay. So here I got some of the text. Okay. So here the startup idea in the field of AI in health tech, focusing on a specific need and potential solution along with some key considerations. Startup AI powered personalized rehabilitation platform for stroke survivors. Okay. Thereafter, it has also given all the solutions and everything, so you can use it to have your own startup. All right. Next, we are going to next step, which is we'll try to use Gemini API for image description. That means if I have some image and I want that image to be given to this Gemini, and that Gemini can read my image, or you can say can understand my image, and thereafter it should describe it. All right, that is what we want. All right, so let me check. Let me show you the image that we are going to use over here. All right, and then we will try to work on it. Right. So the image that we will use over here, let me just show you first. All right, so this is a image that we are going to use. That means what's the plan of action? We will provide this image to the Gemini, and we expect Gemini to decode it and explain what all information exists in this image. This is an image representing actually the vector database, right? The fast vector DB, and you creating a kind of a application which can access the information from your database, right, stored into vector database, and then can help you creating a chatbot kind of thing using OpenAI. So this application also we are going to build in coming days. As of now, let's see how Gemini is going to explain this particular image. All right. So let's get back to your coding interface. So if you see the image I already uploaded over here. All right. So image is already uploaded. We just want that this can be explained by my Gemini API or my application, right? So let's have a code over here. Gemini for image explanation. Okay. So let's say first I have to define a model. Okay. Already we know how can we define a model. This is how we can define a model, right? So let's define the model. So this is how I can define the model, right? And this model is defined because of generative AI library, right? So import Google dot generative AI. This already we did earlier, no need to do it, but we are creating a new application, so that's why I'm just using it as Gen AI, right? So using Gen AI, we have selected the model, right? But before selecting the model, we also need to do what? We also need to configure the API. So how do we configure the API? Gen AI dot configure API, right? Dot configure and then API key, right? So API underscore key is equals to API key. We are going to use same API key that we had used earlier, right? So I'll just copy this thing, right? And I'll paste it over here. All right. So my API key is defined, model is defined, done. Next, what we need? We just need to access the image file, right? So how can we access the image file? We can make use of, this thing that is file handling properties of Python. Okay. So we'll say that image with open. Okay. We are trying to open. What I try to open? I try to open this guy. So copy the path. Okay. So this file will open. Now this image file. That's why I need to read it in a binary form. It's a binary data. Image file used to be a binary data. That's why I'm using RB. Okay. If it is simple text file, then I could use only R. But since I'm reading a binary file, so RB as image file. Give it a name, image file. So now I access this image file, and thereafter this image file data I will store in image data, right? So image data is equals to image file dot read. Okay, dot read. So this is how I can read it, right? And once I will read the image data, I will pass this image data along with the prompt. All right. So here I'll write response is equals to model dot generate content. Okay. And then here I have to give the prompt. Okay. So what prompt shall I give? I'll give over here describe this image in detail. Okay. Now we will feed the image over here. That means the image data. Okay. After this, we'll feed the image data and then it will try to describe that image data in detail. All right. So let's try to feed the image data. So we had given the text, right? Now we have to give the image information. This kind of input is called what? Multimodal input. Okay. It is called, let me just write it over, multimodal input. Multimodal input means what? It's like we are giving over here two things. That is, we are combining two things to give the prompt. Okay. Which is called combining text plus image as input to a Gemini model. Okay. So that is called multimodal input. So how can we give the multimodal input? First, we had already given the text. Okay. Next, I have to give the image. So for giving up the image, that's why you can see we had used this list over here. Okay. So for the image, we have to pass over here one dictionary. Okay, and in this dictionary, we have to give two information. First, the type of image, and second, the actual image. So for type of image, we have to give over a mime type, or you can say meme type also, you can read it. So what is the type of this guy? The type of this guy is PNG, right? If you check it over here, this is a PNG image, most probably. Yes, it is a PNG image. So I'll define image slash PNG. All right. And thereafter I can have data, right? And what is the data? This is the image data. All right. Clear. Now, once it is done, thereafter what we do, we'll try to run this thing so that I can get the output, right? So output will be generated where? In the response. So print response, and what we do to get the response, actual response, it is dot text, right? That we did last time. So response dot text. So we had seen how can we use API to generate the text from the image. So let's try to execute and check what output it is giving to us. How it is recognizing the image. Okay, so here it is saying, let me open up the image also so that we can see the things. Fine. So this is our image, right? What it is saying. Here is a detailed description of the image. The image illustrates a workflow or process diagram related to OpenAI and SQL database interaction. The diagram consisting of rectangular boxes, cylindrical arrow, and all those things. Thereafter, user question. This is your first part, right? It identified it. The stage represents the initiation point where a user enters a question. The user is represented by a blue circle containing human figure, a number, arrow 1, and this one, right? Next, fast vector DB, the teal cylinder. Okay, fast vector DB. Label fast vector DB is on arrows label is schema retrieval, an example retrieval point from vector database to the prompt template box, indicating that schema and examples are retrieved from the vector DB to form the prompt. These are number 2. Right, so it's explained the things very well. If you want more detailed explanation, what you can do, you can take this whole thing, okay, and create a prompt to explain these concepts to me step by steps. Okay, so you can get a more descriptive explanation of the same thing. All right, so the point over here is that we know how can we use API to generate the text, right? We know how can we use API to explain the image, but these things we can also do by uploading image over here, right? Here I can upload the image, here I can just give the prompt. Then what are we doing here? Okay, here it's like, this process, if we know this process, we can create your own application to generate the text. Right? So you can use your own application to generate, like suppose I want to create a web app. Okay, so I can integrate this process into my own website to generate some sort of text or to read an image kind of thing. So that's what we are going to see next. Okay, after this we'll start with the creating our own applications, as well as I'll show you how can you deploy your applications over a cloud service so that it can be globally used. So stay tuned. We are going to start with the next thing. All right. So let's move ahead with our next step, in which we'll try to create a user interface for our application. Which application? The text generation application and image describing application. So to create the UI, we'll make use of one of the Python package called Streamlit. I already created a detailed tutorial video in the Streamlit that we can easily explore. So let's move ahead to understand how can we use Streamlit to create a UI using which user can interact. Later on, I'll also tell you how can we how can we upload that UI, or how can we make that UI globally available for everyone through a cloud service. So to create this, we'll make use of a coding interface, or you can say coding environment, which is called so which is called VS Code. We'll make use of this VS Code for creating our UI using Python programming language. For that, first of all, I click on open folder. So when I click on open folder, it will help us in defining, or you can say assigning a project folder. There will be a project folder in which our whole project will exist, right? So I'll create my project folder in my D drive. All right, so you can say this is a folder that we are going to use where our project will be stored, right? So same folder I accessed in my VS Code, Gemini AI app, right? So here I'll create my new file, and file name I can give over here. Let's say text gen app.py. All right, so this is going to be our complete full-fledged application using which we can generate the text, right? So for that I need to import Streamlit, okay, as st. Now this is a Python package that should be there in your system, right? If it is not there, you have to install it. Now how can you install it? To install this thing, you can go to your command prompt, right, and type over there pip install Streamlit. In my system, most probably it is already there, so it will show requirement already satisfied. In your case, you may have to install it. You can say what is it showing? Requirement already satisfied. That means this guy is already there, right? Next, we have to import one more library or package, that is your generative AI by Google. Okay, Streamlit for creating the UI, generative AI for assigning the API and all. So I'll do what? Import Google dot generative AI as Gen AI. Now again, this particular library should also be there in your system. If it is not there, you have to install it. Now how can you install it? Already I told you in last series or the last application, you can easily install it by using pip install generative AI, right? So here you have to just give the command. Let me show you. Pip install this thing, Google generative AI. So when I'll give this instruction in my command prompt, it will install the required thing. It is also there in my system showing requirement already satisfied. So these two are the important dependency that should be there. Then only you can do the things, right? Next, I have to configure my API. So for configuring my API, configure API. What I need to use over here Gen AI dot configure. Okay, and then I have to define the API key over here, API underscore key. So whatever the API key that I had used earlier, same API key I'll use here, right? So I'll just copy my API key and paste it over here. Let me just allow 1 second so that I can copy and paste. Now my API key is created or configured. Next, I have to create Gemini model instance, right? Gemini model instance. All right. Now what this Gemini model instance, here we'll define the type of model that we want to use. So model will be equals to what? The way we did it in the last example, like this, like model is equal to, I'll show you, see here, model is equal to this thing, right? So same thing we have to use, right? So I'll copy this entity and we'll paste it over here, right? Okay, so I selected my model, that means Gemini 2.2 Flash. Thereafter, we have to create our Streamlit user interface. So Streamlit user interface. So for creating the Streamlit user interface, first of all, we'll define over here the page, right? So I'll do what? Set st.set page config. Here we can define the page title. Okay, so page title. Okay, here we can do what? Our generative text app powered by Gemini. All right, done. Next, we'll add the title over here, st.title. Okay, that was a page title, and here we'll use the title of my web page. So we can just give it a things, any title that can be like what do you want to know? Okay, that's it. So you have this thing. Now I will add over here one markdown. Okay, that means a kind of information that I want to give to the user, right? So generate, or you can say tell us what information do you want. I will provide you I will provide you the details. Okay, something like this. I had just given it. Okay, something random. We can be more innovative in this case. Now, when I will run this program, okay, let's save this program. So this program is saved. Now, how to run this program? To run this program, we need to go to same location where my files are saved. So where is it saved? It is saved over here. All right, you can see. Right at this location, I will run command prompt. So I'll type command prompt in the address bar, and then I will run it. Right, when I'll run the command prompt, I can see the command prompt is running over here. Now, how to execute my application? Simple. I have to type Streamlit run and the file name. Okay, what is the file name that we had given? Text gen app, right? So text underscore gen underscore app.py. Let's run it. So when I'll execute it, it will run my application in my web browser. So I'll switch to my web browser. You can see this is what you can see. We are getting over everything. This is our page title, our generative text or something. Okay, this one, if you see here, I have a page title. Okay, here I have the title of my application, and here it is a markdown. Okay, now we want a kind of a field where user can enter something, right? So for that, we will modify our code once again. Let's get back to the coding. And here I'll define the prompt input field, right? So prompt input, where user can just give some of the prompt, isn't it? So for that, prompt underscore input is equals to, I want input text, right? So st dot text area or text input. Text area will give you the larger area. Text input will be a single line input. Okay. So here I'll say some of the input that I want. Okay. What provide your prompt here. Okay. Let's say provide your prompt here, right? And then I'll give value is equals to blank. Okay. I just want it to be, that means after the prompt entered, it can be blank, right? So let's save this thing and again go back and check our user interface. Okay, so this is your user interface. I'll refresh it. So just refresh it, you can see what we have. So provide your prompt here, right? So here I have to give the prompt. Let me give the prompt. Give me some really cool startup idea for 2025, right? So as of now, it will do nothing, right? Because as of now, it's just a user interface. We want to use it for generating something. If I want to use it for generating something, what we need? We need over here the button, or you can say we have to use over here the Gemini, right? As of now, we have not used anything like Gemini. So for that, we'll create a button, generate button. Okay, like when someone will click on the button, it will generate the output. So st.button. Okay, here I'll say generate. So that's it, right? Now I'll save this thing and I'll see whether my button is appeared or not. So I'll go back to my user interface and see. Yeah, this is a button created, right? Next, I have to make sure whenever the button clicked, something should happen, something should generate it. So I'll give a if condition. If this is button is clicked, right? So I'll say over here what with st.spinner. Okay, so spinner will do what? That means when the process will go on, there will be a spinner that will run, right? And when the spinner will run, there will be a message that will be appear that is called thinking. Okay, that is a processing time, so that users should know that there is some processing going on, isn't it? Okay, so it's like you give the prompt and there is a spinner going on, there is a spinner that will run and it will show the message it is thinking. And thereafter prompt will be equals to what? Whatever the prompt that you entered over here, right? So prompt input dot strip. So it will just remove any extra spaces if it is there, right? So that is how the prompt will be defined. And thereafter we can try for this thing, that is try and accept, so that in case if there is any error, that can be handled gracefully. Okay, so here I'll write in the try section, response is equals to what? Model dot generate content, right? This is what we had used, and here we'll just feed the prompt. Okay, so this will generate the content, isn't it? Whatever the prompt that we have, that will, based on that, it will generate the content. And thereafter here it will give me st dot write. Okay, what it will write? The response dot text. Okay, response dot text. Okay, and in case there is an exception, that will be handled gracefully, and it can show me accept exception as err and then st dot error. Okay, and then an error occurred. Okay, what error occurred? That we can show it like this, err, and this can be the formatted text. All right, so this thing is done, I guess. So let's try to refresh our web page and see the things in action, isn't it? So I'll go here, I'll just refresh this guy. Okay, and it is showing me some error over here. You can see, right? That means something I'm missing, right? So I'll get back to my code, and what is missing? This semicolon is missing, or sorry, this colon is missing. So I'll again save my file. Okay, and saving the file again, I'll go get back to my app. Okay, I'll refresh this guy. Okay, and then it is asking, what do you want to know? Okay, so let's say, tell me some really cool startup idea, okay, for 2025. All right, so I'll ask it to generate, and this is how it is thinking something, right? So let it be processed, and thereafter we'll see the result over here in few minutes, right? Here the output is not as we are expecting, so let's check the things, like why are we not getting the output as it is expected. We'll get back here and we'll check. See what happened here. We just passed it within the quotes, right? This quote is not required, isn't it? Because if I pass it within the quote, this will be a static string, isn't it? So I'll modify this code, get back to our application once again, right? And then again I'll refresh it. Meanwhile I'll just copy this thing so that I don't have to write once again. All right, I'll paste it over here. Okay, and then I'll do what? I'll again generate the text. So let's see, it will take few seconds to generate and give us the output. All right, so we get the output over here. So this is our own application kind of thing, which can be used and we can deploy it over the cloud as well. Okay, in our website, we can create a website and we can deploy. How to deploy, I'll tell you that process next. But yeah, let me ask it something else, right? Really interesting. This, okay, article on climate change. Okay, so let's see the output. Okay, so if you see, climate change is getting hot in here and not in good way. So okay, let's talk about climate change. You can see we get it. So you know, this is what it's like. It is application powered by Gemini, but it's our own application, isn't it? and that's working really cool, right? So that's working fine. Okay, now let's see how can we deploy it on a cloud service, right? That is going to be really interesting application that we are going to deploy over the cloud service, because right now it is using what? It is using our local server. Okay, you can see localhost 8501. This is using our local server. I want it to be accessible from any part of the world. So if I want it to be accessible from any part of the world, I need to deploy it on a cloud. So next step is deployment of this application over the cloud, right? So let's get started. Now see, if I want it to deploy it over a cloud service, right? So that cloud service should have few files, few dependencies already stored, isn't it? Already installed, right? Like for example, right now I'm using my own local system. So in my local system, I had installed Streamlit, generative AI, these kind of things. So suppose if I'm planning to use a cloud service, right? Suppose there is a cloud service I'm planning to use. It can be anything like render, it can be AWS, it can be Google Cloud, anything. Okay, so that particular service should know, right? Whatever the instance I am creating for deployment of my application, that instance should know that this application requires Streamlit. This application requires Google Generative AI. Okay, without these two things, this application can't run, right? So first, I need to create a file called requirements .txt. Okay, and using this file, the required dependencies will first get installed in my cloud service or in my cloud instance, right? So once all the dependencies get installed in my cloud instance, thereafter this application can run smoothly over there, isn't it? So let's try to create a file over here, and the file name I'll give as a requirements.txt. All right. So first I'll create requirements. Spelling should be correct because later on the same spelling we have to use. So requirements requirements.txt. Right. And in this requirements.txt, what I write, I'll write whatever that I required. What I required is Streamlit. So I'll just write over here Streamlit. Okay. And next, what I required Google Generative AI. So I'll copy this thing. What I did, pip install Google Generative AI, right? So Google Generative AI, right? So this is our requirement file that is being created. All right. Next, what we need to do? Next, we had used over here the API key, right? Now, when we are using API key, this API key I can't keep in my file as it is, isn't it? Because we are going for cloud deployment. That is a security concern, right? If I keep the API key as it is, it will be a security concern, and later on anyone can read my API and there can be the misuse of API, right? So what we do, we'll define over here something called Gen AI API and key, right? And later on we will create a an environmental variable with this name, and in that environmental variable we will do what? We will try to store this particular whatever the API key that we have, so that my API key will not be visible to everyone. Okay, it will be stored secretly and securely in the environmental variable, right? So that's what we are going to do. So let's go ahead with the deployment part. Now, what service shall we use for deployment? See, there is very popular service that we can use for the deployment, and that is called what? Render. Okay, we'll use the Render cloud service for our application deployment, cloud application platform, right? So when we are planning to use Render, so here we'll click on get started for free. Now, when we click on get started for free, I can create an app over here, right? But when I want to create an app, it will ask me what the project name or something. Now it is saying upgrade to professional to get multiple projects. Okay, that means as it is a free service, so I can create one app at a time. That means I have to delete my existing app, then only I can create a new app, right? So let me delete my existing app and thereafter I'll create a. So how to delete? I can click on this app. Okay, this is my app, right? I'll click here and go to settings, and I scroll down and here I'll delete it, right? So I have to give this particular line of code over here to delete my web service. Now there is no web service. Now I have to click on create new service. So I have to create a web service. So I'll click on new web service. Now when I click on web service, it will ask me to add my Git repository. That means it will fetch the details of my application from Git, right? So I have to access it from the Git, right? So here, let's say I have to go to this place and from here I have to access it. That means I need to create a repository first in my Git, right? So let's try to create a repository first in my Git, and thereafter we will upload our code files, right? So I'll go to repository and here I'll create a new repository. So let's give it a name, or you can say Gen AI, Gen Text Generation App. Okay, this is what done, right? And I'll create a repository. Once it is created, I will upload the file that we have created. Okay, the files that we created, two files are there that we created, right? Requirements.txt and textgenapp.py. So these two files will be uploaded to my Git repository, right? So once it is uploaded, we'll connect it to the render. So let it be uploaded. Now it is uploaded. Now we can connect it to render. The name is what? Text generation app. Let's get back to the render, right? And here I'll connect it, right? So credentials, this one, okay, and I have to select that repository that I want, right? So to select the repository, let's see what I can do. I can click here. So when I click there, it is just selecting my repository that I first used. Here I can click on edit, right? And here I need to give the location. How can I give the location? I'll get back to my GitHub, right? And here I have a repository that is just created, text generation app. Okay, I'll click here, and from here I can copy this URL. All right, once I copy this URL, thereafter I'll get back to render, okay, and paste it over here. Right now it is saying you don't have access to this one. I can also access to public repository. So click on public repository and click on connect. So now let it be connected. So my app name is what? Text generation app, right? It is saying create a new project to add this. So I can create a new project over here. Project name I can give what? Text generation. All right, and then I'll click on create project. All right, language is Python 3. This is fine, right? Thereafter root directory, I can keep this one src pip install r requirement.txt. That means it will first install these, whatever the dependencies I have listed into the requirements file. It will first install into my cloud interface. A startup command. What startup command do we have? So see, when we were running the Streamlit in our local system, what a startup command we had given? We had given over there, what you can see, Streamlit run, right? This is what we had given. Streamlit run, this one. Okay, so same startup command we have to give it over here, right? Streamlit. I'll just copy this thing. I'll go over here and paste it over here. Streamlit run, and the file name. What is my file name? Let's check the file name that we have, that we uploaded to the Git, isn't it? So the file name that we have over here, let's check, is textgenapp.py, the same file name that we have to give. So I guess the same file name we had already given, right? And then we have to give over here one more thing that is called server, okay, dot port, this port, so that it can access a port to run my program. Thereafter I'll select this free one, okay, and then there is an environmental variable. This is what I was talking to you when we created the program. Okay, if you see over here, we had not mentioned any API key. Why? For security reason. So this thing is my environmental variable. I'll copy this thing and thereafter I will paste it over here. Okay, the same thing, right? And the value of this thing will be what? Our API key. whatever the API key that we have. So API key I can pick from here, isn't it? Because same API key I'm using for the security reason. All right. Now everything is set. Now I'll click on deploy web services. So if I click here, it will do what? It will first install all the dependencies that I have listed down. You can see the progress over here. Very soon the progress will start, and thereafter it will tell us that my application is running. So here it just started the progress, and it will try to install pip install requirements.txt. So it just installed all the dependencies over here, right? And thereafter my application will start running. Once it will start running, anyone can use this particular thing around the globe to access my application. If it is free, so it will run for a few minutes, and thereafter it will automatically stops running. To keep it running, I have to continuously use it, right? Then only it will keep it running. If suppose 1 or 2 minutes no one is using it, application will stop running. Again I have to restart the server, right? If it is paid one, right, because you had seen we are using the free service, if it is paid one, it can run permanently. We can also integrate this thing into our own website that I'll show you later on. But as of now, let's see, once everything will install, how my application will run over the cloud. So let it be installed and start running our application. We have to wait for a few minutes. So if you see, my service is now live. So when our service is live, we need to do what? We need to click here. This is our web URL through which we can access our application. And if I share this URL with anyone, so anyone can access my application. It is like, website is having web address. So this is the web address of my app, which can be accessible globally because my application is deployed on the server. So when I click it, I'll get the things app over here. So let's see if it is running smoothly or we are getting some error. If it will run smoothly, that means everything we did correct. If we are getting some error, that means we have to fix some of the errors that we have. So let's see what happened. Now I'll ask it to generate something. Okay, now if you say this is not running on localhost, okay, it is using a web address, right? Now I'll provide a prompt. So what prompt shall I provide? Uh, Tell me something about uh, tourist place in India. Okay, so let's see. When I click on generate, it is showing us an error. Now this is really interesting. What is the error? API key not valid. But we had given the API key valid API key. So let's check our program. Okay. So when I open up the program over here, right? Here I had given Gen API key, and we had also created the environmental variable, if you remember, right? Then what's the problem? So here, purposely, I had made this mistake, okay, so that I can let you know what is the correct way of defining a API key if you are going to if you're going to declare the API key in the environment variable. So here I'll edit this file and I will add few more things. I'll add one library called OS. So import OS. Now using this OS, we will define our API key. That means I'll write over here API key is equals to OS dot get environment. Okay, EN. What is this? See, OS is a library which is used to access the directory of your system. Here we are going to read the environmental variable. Okay, os.get environment. And which environmental variable I have to read? I have to read this guy. So this thing will not be mentioned over here. Okay, it will be mentioned over here. Right? And here what I have to mention? I have to mention this variable. Okay, now my code is ready to read the API key from the environment variable and configure Gen AI. Okay, so I made the change directly over here in Git. I'll commit the change. So change committed. Okay, and based on this new updated change, what I do, I will now again redeploy my application. So for that, I will get back to my this thing, and I'll again try. Let's see if it can work as I made the changes. So here I click it. Okay, and if it will work, it's good. Otherwise, we have to redeploy it, right? So let's see. Tell me something about SpaceX. Okay, so let's see. Not working. That means I have to redeploy the things, right? So for that, what I do, I'll go back to my application. This is what we have deployed. As we have deployed this thing, first of all, to avoid any sort of confusion, I will remove this one. Click here. I'll go to settings. Okay, and I'll delete this web service. All right. Okay. So here it is being deleted. I'll create a new web service. Okay, here I have to give the URL, so I'll go here, I'll copy this URL from here, text generation app. Okay, here this is the URL that I copy. I'll paste it over here, public repository, connect. Okay, everything is cool. Only I have to select our, here I have to give the startup command. What is startup command shall I give? I have to give Streamlit run text gen API app.py. What is text gen app? This is the app. Okay, this is text gen app. Okay, so Streamlit run text gen app.py free, and then here I define the environmental variable. Which variable? The same variable that we have defined here, right? This one, right? Okay, so I'll put it over here. Okay, and what is the value of this thing? The API key that you have generated from AI Studio Google, right? Done. Okay, and now I'll deploy, and now you see the magic. Everything will run smoothly. So that the purpose over here is to make you aware with the things. How should we define a API key if we know that our API key is going to be fetched from the environment variables, right? So let's wait for a few minutes. It will install the things and we'll get the result. Okay. So now my build is successful and service is live. Okay, now again let's click here and check what happens. So you can see you are getting 502. So don't worry about it. Whenever you are getting 502, this is not a problem. It is just your service gone live just now. So it may take a few seconds to show you. So now it is live, right? It is running. So we can wait for a few more seconds. Can be the best startup idea for year 2025 in India. Okay, let's see. So now we have defined our API key and everything through environmental variables, right? Now, by looking at this program, no one can know that what is my API key, okay? Because I am deploying it, so that thing is very much important. So now if you see, okay, let's brainstorm something that had given me a, like, these are the startup idea that it had generated and suggested me. You can work on it and you can make some business also. All right. Now what we do, we will go ahead and we'll try to modify the this application, this cloud application for image description, right? That means we can upload the image and this service can just explain the image for me, isn't it? That is what we want right now. Okay, so for doing it, what we do, again, we'll get back to our development environment right here, and this is our Gen AI for the text generation. Now I'll create a new app. So for our for our image description, right? So I'll click here and we'll just have the open folder, and I will create a new folder, right? So let's say I'll create same way. I can create a new folder in my D drive, E drive, wherever you want to create a new folder, you can create it, right? Let's say I'm creating a new folder, Gen image, Gen AI image description. Genea image description. Okay. So what I did, I had created a new folder. I'll show you that folder. Here is the folder. Just allow me for a minute. Okay, so here is a folder that I created, right? And in this folder I will create all my project, and then I will publish the content of this folder to the Git, and then I'll use it for the application. So let's say I'll go here once again. So what we require two files. One that is called requirements.txt. You know why requirements is required? To have all the requirements listed. Second, I required over here what? The actual app, right? So I can give it a name like app.py. All right, now let's try to write the program. Okay, so what program will write over here? It's import Streamlit as st, the first thing. Second thing, I need to work with the image, so I need a library which can access the image. So from PIL import image. All right. Thereafter, import Google.generative AI as Gen AI for configuring the API. Import input output. Okay, for reading the image and all. Next, what we need to configure the API over here. So how can we configure the API? We can use the same process that we used already for 2-3 times. I have to use over a google.configure, genai.configure, isn't it? And then the API key. Then thereafter, I have to set the page title and everything that we did earlier, isn't it? So for setting up the page title, what we do, I'll just I can copy and paste the code from the previous code file, isn't it? So just allow me for a minute. I'll just copy and paste the code from the previous code file. Okay. So this is for the Streamlit. So set page config. Okay, the page title. So it can be like I can give it a name, image, description with Gemini. All right. Then st.title. What do you want to, or you can say I can give it a things like describe an image using Gemini. Okay. Thereafter, I'll give the markdown to let the user know what to do. Upload an image and get detailed description generated by Gemini. All right. Thereafter, we need a file uploader over here, right? So you can see if, or you can say upload file, right? So upload. First I have to upload, and thereafter I have to click on that particular button, right? So uploaded file, that can be equals to st.fileuploader. Okay, this is a Streamlit file uploader to upload a file. I'll say what, choose an image. Okay, and then I can just define the type of the image that can be used over here. Let's say I have to use JPG and PNG and what other type generally we have? JPEG, right? So type is equal to JPG. Okay, thereafter JPEG, thereafter PNG. Okay, so these are the files that we required. Now we'll say that, okay, fine, let's check this how it is working, right? So locally we will check, and later on we'll go for the cloud deployment. Both will do. So for locally, to check it locally, we'll go to the location where my files exist, right? So my files are existing at a location. Let me just open up that particular location so that I can run it from there, isn't it? So my file is actually existing over here. So I'll run the command prompt here, okay, and run Streamlit run app.py, okay, and then I'll check if it is running or not. Okay, that's good, looking good. So I can browse the file over here. It's actually running, if you see, isn't it? So I can browse the file over here and I can select any image from my system, isn't it? Only thing, once image is selected, I want a description of this image. All right. So for that, I have to write the complete script now. Okay. So I'll get back to my coding interface. Okay. And here we will write if uploaded file. That means file is uploaded. Okay. First check if the file is uploaded. Is not none. Okay, if it is not none, then do what? Then we'll have some logic which can try to describe it. Okay, and accept exception as e, right? st dot error, what? F, an error occurred, and I can give it the things like this is my error. So in the try section, we'll write over here. First, I have to load the image, open the image. Then I have to display the image. Then I have to convert the image into the bytes, into the byte form. And then the model will try to explain the image. Okay. So step one is what I have to, because when we do it using this process, okay, when we did it using this process, like we already did it right over here. So in this case, what happened? It just like we are reading the image file over here and giving it to explain, right? But now we have to upload the image. It's like after uploading the image, we can't directly use it like this, because earlier we were using the Colab environment. Directly we are reading the image data and we are feeding it over here. It is already in the byte form. Okay, it is already in the byte form. But now since we are uploading it to the UI, we have to manually convert into the byte form. All right. So let's try to do it. Here, I have to first reopen the image with PIL. PIL is what? It's a Python library for the image to avoid any format issues. Okay, later on there should not be any data format type of issue should be there, like file format type. Suppose someone else had uploaded some other kind of file, right? So what do? We will just make sure that at the end my model should get the PNG JPG kind of file only. So I'll open image dot open. Okay, what I have to open? I have to open this uploaded file. Fair enough. Dot, in case if it is not in a proper format, so we'll convert it into first RGB, red, green, blue. If it is whatever, suppose in other kind of color scaling is there, it can be converted into red, green, and blue. Then I need to display the image. So how can I display the image? st.image. Okay, what I have to display? img. Okay, that is what I need to display. In case if image is not displayed, then there can be a caption. So caption can be uploaded image. All right. Now I can just go ahead for the next part, in which we'll convert it into proper byte array. Okay, so convert the image into proper byte array. Okay, that is a numerical. That means it's a kind of a pixel values, you can say, of the image. Okay, that means image will be converted into proper numerical form. Okay, so here we'll encode as PNG or JPG. All right. So for that, what we do? We'll use over here byte underscore stream is equals to input output dot byte input output, right? So it will first define the byte stream, that means the object for the byte stream, and thereafter I have to save img.save the image as a PNG form. So this byte stream, okay, can be used to save my image as a PNG data, okay, PNG form, so that in case if it is any other form of image, that can also be converted into proper PNG form. And then we will have the image bytes. What is my image bytes over here? Image bytes equals to the byte stream, okay, dot get value. This byte stream is having some value, so this value we are reading it into the image bytes. Okay, so from where this value generated, this value is generated from here, right? And then that is stored as the image bytes. Now we'll have a button, and using that button we have to explain the image. So how can we create the button? st.button, okay, and in this button I'll write describe image. So when image should get described, if this button is clicked. So if someone is clicking this button, then there should be a spinner like we did in last example. Okay, so we want what a spinner is required with st.spinner thinking, right? As it is clicked, there will be a spinner that will run, right? And thereafter we need to do what? We need to define the model, right? So that can be model equals to generative AI, whatever that we have defined in the last time, right? So you can define it here or you can define above as well. It's totally fine. And thereafter I have to do what? I have to define over here response. That means the same thing that we did earlier. Okay, the same thing we have to just copy and paste. That means I'll show you. This is what we did earlier, right? So model is defined. After the model, this is what I'll copy and paste it. All right. Okay, so let's paste this guy. Okay, so here some indentation error may be there. So just to fix that, I am just kind of properly arranging it. Now it is saying image data is showing some yellow underline because now we don't have image data. What we have? We have image bytes. Okay, rest everything is fine. Right. Now once it is done, thereafter I have to show over here st.success button. That will be a green color kind of button, and that will show me what description generated. All right, and then here I can give the st.markdown, and here I can give the things that we want. AI Council says. All right, what it says, whatever the information that is generated, we can use st.write response dot text. All right, so things are done over here, right? And once it is done, I'll save it and I will get back to the interface where my application is running, right? So let's get back to the interface where my application is running. I guess here it is running localhost and something. Let's refresh it. Okay, now I'll just browse file and I'll just try to upload a image over here. All right, now it is running. So image is uploaded. This is what we can say. Now we have a describe image option, right? So let's click here. It is thinking. It will take some time. Description is generated. So AI Council says the image shown retro style robot is standing. Okay, so it's working good, right? Now if I want to make it available for the render, okay, what we want? We want to make it available for the render so that through the cloud service it can be used. What change I have to do? Again, this is repeating, right? So let's see what changes we can do so that it can be, we can make it available for the cloud services, right? So we have to first remove this thing that is your API key, and then we have to update our requirements file, isn't it? So first thing, we'll go to requirements thing, okay, and here we will write all the required dependencies. We required Streamlit, we required Google Generative AI, right? generative AI. And we required what? PIL also we had used for image, for reading the image, for showing the image, right? So this can be accessed through a library called Pillow, right? So these three things we require as a requirements.txt. And second, I want to keep secure my API key. So this API key I can't mention over here. What I can do, I can just mention a text that we will use as a environmental variable, right? So Gen AI API key. All right. So these changes I did. Once these changes are done, what we need to do next? We need to go to our GitHub and create a repository and upload this thing, right? So get back to our GitHub. Okay. And here I'll create a repository. In case of repo, new. Okay. Let's create a repository. What repository shall I give it a name? Image describer. All right. Okay, image describer. I'll create it. Okay, once I create it, I have to upload the existing file. So now I'll upload those two files that I created, which is app.py and requirements.txt. Is it uploaded? Yes, it is uploaded. I'll click on commit changes. All right. Now I will get back to my render. Okay. So where is my render? Let me just close all the things that is already running. Okay, this is running on localhost. I'll close it. Okay, so this is my app.py. Okay, I'll go to render, right? And thereafter we have already there is a app that we have, text generation app. Now I have to delete this app, or let me just try to create one more app. Let's see if it is working or not. So plus create new service. Okay, new web service. Okay, now here I have to add it. So for adding, what I do, I'll get back to my this image describer, copy this thing. Okay, I'll paste it over here. Okay, public repository. It will ask me to connect. So I'll connect it. Name, image describer, Python 3, everything is fine. Okay, here requirement.txt will be installed first. Okay, and here I have to give the startup command. What is a startup command? A startup command is like your Streamlit run app.py, because this is my file, server port. So that is fine. And thereafter I'll choose a free, because these, if I want it a permanent deployment and I want it to keep running for longer duration, I can use it. Here I'll get the more power, but here I'll use free. Thereafter, variable. What variable shall I give it over here? The variable that we had used here. Okay, so that means if I'll get back to my coding interface, we had used Gemini Gen AI API key. Okay, so same variable I will use it over here. Okay, and then the value of this variable will be what? The API key. Where is our API key? Here is our API key. Okay, paste it over here. Okay, now this is done. Now deploy web services. As I clicked on deploy web services, it will take some time to install all the dependencies in my cloud environment, and then my app will start running. So let's wait for a few minutes so that it can just install everything, and then my application will run. To see what it is showing, build successful. Okay, and it is now deploying. It will take few more minutes to deploy and make your application live. So what can you see? You can see your service is live. As your service is live, we can go here and click here, right? So now we get a kind of a web address through which my application can be accessible around the globe. Now I don't need this local host thing. Okay, I can close it. So let's see, our app is running. I'll browse a file, right? And I'll try to upload an image. All right. So let's see how is it behaving. I uploaded the image, and then I want it to describe my image. All right. So I click on describe image. All right. Now I'm getting the same error that we got last time. But this time I am assured that you must be knowing why are we getting this error. We are getting this error because over here we have defined API key is equal to gen API key. Why I define it like this? So that I can access the API from environment variables. If I want to access the API from environment variable, what I need? I need OS. Okay, that can access the environment variables. So I have to write over here API key is equals to os dot what get environment. All right, and then here I have to give the key that we had used. This is a key we had used, isn't it? Right, and then API key is equals to API key. All done. Okay, now we will commit this change and we will see how is it behaving. So I committed the change. This thing is not working as expected, so close it, get back to render, go back to your app. Here I'll delete my image describer because it is not working as it is expected, and I will redeploy image describer. So first let's delete this guy. Okay, and thereafter I will add over here new web service. Here I have to give what? The URL. So I'll take the URL from here, from Git. This particular application I want to deploy, take the URL, paste it over here. Public repository, connect. Okay, it will get connected. Thereafter, I have to start using a start command. Streamlit run this one. Thereafter, I'll take the free service variable name gen API key. And what is the value of that variable? The API key. This particular API key, who will read? It will, here this guy will read it. os.get environment variable gen AI API key. So it can be easily read. Now I'll click on deploy web services and let's see how is it behaving. It will install all the dependencies first, and thereafter everything is expected to work smoothly. Let's wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Meanwhile, this is getting the dependencies will get installed, and thereafter we'll check how is it working. All right. So once again, my service is live. Let's launch it. And this time again we are getting 502 bad gateway. What to do? Nothing. Just refresh it once again. Okay, and your service will start. Once it will start, thereafter we'll try to check how is it working, isn't it? So we have to wait for a few minutes before it will start. I have to browse the file, go to the location where my files are saved. Here it is saved. Open it up, and then click on what? Describe. Right, let the image gets happier. Describe image. Now it started working easily. All right, nice. So whatever the things that present in this image, it is describing it very well. User question, prompt template, OpenAI, SQL, database result, everything, right? So that means my application is created and we know how can we deploy it over the web, and we will also get the web address using which my application can be accessible anywhere. This kind of application we are going to create for chatbot. As a chatbot, we are next project is about the chatbot. We'll have our own PDF file, we'll have our own document, and based on that document, we'll try to create a chatbot, and that chatbot will deploy on a web server, and thereafter we will also integrate with our own website, right? So just move ahead for the next step after finishing this particular project. All right, all the best. All right, team. So next, go ahead with our next application, which is a custom chatbot using private data. What it means, let's say I have this private data, right, which is a kind of a browser, okay, in which there are some information mentioned about different training programs that we provide. All right. Now I want to build a chatbot so that if there is someone who wants to know about our training program, can easily interact with that chatbot and can get all the informations, right? Whatever the information they want, they can easily have the information from using a chatbot, right? So what should be the process that we need to follow? All right. So the process over here is very simple. The first step that will be implemented over here is what it's like. We have to extract, we need to know how to extract a PDF data using Python. Okay, so extract PDF data using Python. This is what we need to do first. All right, obviously that will do. Next, we will just create a prompt. Okay, we'll just try to build a prompt, and that prompt will give to our Gemini a prompt that can use the context from PDF to response. Okay, response the user query. All right, we already had seen in our last example, we were giving the prompt. Using that prompt, we could describe a image. We were giving the prompt, and based upon the prompt, our application were generating some sort of text, isn't it? Now we will do what? We'll use a prompt, but the output will be controlled by the PDF or our own private data. All right, this is what we are going to use over here, right? So let's proceed without wasting much time, right? So see here what we need. We need a library that is called FIDS. Okay. Now, what is FIDS library? If it is there in your system, it's well and good. If it is not there, you have to install it. Okay. So how you can install it? See, you can just install it using pip install. You can see it is not there. Okay. Pip install PyMuPDF. Okay. And here you can give the exclamatory sign. Okay, so if I'm using in Colab or Notebook, I need exclamatory sign. If I'm giving this command in a command prompt, I don't need this exclamatory sign. Okay, thereafter I will import it. Let's say it will work. And once it will work, obviously we need the next thing, that is Google Generative AI. So import Google.generative AI, Google.generative AI as Gen AI. All right, these two things are important. Third, we have to configure our API. So Gen AI dot configure. What I need to configure? API key that would be equals to whatever the API key that we have. So let me just copy and paste the API key that I'm having directly over here. Okay, fine. Next, this is done. Okay, next we'll create a function that can extract the PDF text. Who will extract the PDF text? This Python library. So let's have a function over here, def extract PDF text. Okay, so for extracting the PDF text, we need what? PDF path. Fair enough. So I'll give the PDF path, and then from that path, text will be extracted and we'll get the information. So let's say doc is equals to fetch. Oh, sorry, just a minute. Fetch dot open. Okay. So what I need to open? I need to open this particular PDF path. PDF underscore path. Right. And from that path, whatever like path will define later on, from that path where at that location, whichever the PDF file exists, this can easily open, right? Thereafter, there can be a variable which is containing a blank text. Okay. Now for page in doc, that means just go through the each content that is present in this document. Which document? The document that is just accessed. Okay. And then do what? Just have the full text, and in this full text add the content of the page, like page dot get underscore text. Okay, whatever the text we have, just keep reading, just keep accessing the text and keep adding into this full text. And at the end, return full text. Okay, return full text. So now let's see how is it working. So to test it here at this location, I will upload my file to test if it is working or not working. Right. So let me upload the file over here. Right. I just uploaded here. The file is what? AI Council Browser PDF. Okay. It is the same file that I have over here. Right. So now I will just take this thing and I will take this function. Okay. And I'll just take this location. Okay, and I'll pass this location over here just to check if this guy is working or not. Yes, this guy is working. It can easily extract the documents. It can easily extract the information from my PDF. This is looking really good. All right. Next, what do we know? We will create a function that is responsible for what? That is responsible for chatting with this PDF. Okay. So here, def chat with doc. Okay, whatever doc, right? Now here I need what? To chat with the doc, I need the I need over here the information. Okay, the document information. So how can I have the document information? The document information I can get it from here. Let's say here I will call it later on when I have to call this guy. So I have to call it like this. Sorry. So I have to call this thing, right? And here PDF path I have to define, right? So PDF path. Okay, that would be equals to what? This is a path, right? So this is my PDF path. Okay, and once the PDF path is defined, thereafter this PDF path will be passed over here, and then I have the PDF text. Okay, so I get the PDF text. Now as I get the PDF text, thereafter this PDF text will be given to this guy. Okay, to whom? Chat with PDF, and this PDF text I have to give it to this guy. Okay, and this function is responsible for actual chat operation. Okay, this function is responsible for what? For actual chat operation. All the logics will be over here. All right, so first let's try to print welcome to AI Council Chatbot. All right, and thereafter I'll say, in case someone don't want to continue with the chatbot, so someone can just type exit to quit. All right, this is fine. Now this will be printed. Thereafter, chat should run in infinite loop. Whenever someone will, it should be while true. If someone wants to exit from the chat, the person will just type exit. Otherwise, chat will run in infinite loop. That's why we do what over here? We'll give while true. Okay. So while true, user input. That means I am keep taking the user input over here. Let's say input. Okay, and here I'll say what? U. Okay, and we'll give the, when I type it, like when this thing will appear, user will comes to know that user needs to give some prompt. Okay, now in case if user dot input or user input dot lower, like if suppose user had given in uppercase or lowercase, right, whatever. Like suppose if user is giving the information, giving the exit command in uppercase, user had given the exit command in uppercase, then also I'm converting that into lowercase. So if user input is exit, or suppose user input is quit, in either of the case, what we need, we need to just say goodbye to the user and I have to break the loop, right? Done. And if it is not, that means user wants to talk. All right. So now how user will talk? Now we will just create, when we are doing some conversation always build up with the help of context. Okay, like right now I am covering Gen AI thing. Okay, so there is a context of Gen AI going on, right? In between, I can't insert. Okay, let's just start Python. Okay, let's just start data science. No, right? There is a context of Gen AI going on. So conversation is tightly packed by a kind of a context, right? So and context is built up with the help of conversation history, right? So we need to build conversation history, conversation history for the context. Okay, in that context only the conversation should go on. Otherwise, sometimes conversation may give you the some random result. Okay, because it is a machine, right? So conversation, by default, the conversation is what? Blank. Nothing is there, right? Now, initially our chat history also I'll define over here. Chat history. This is also blank, a list containing nothing, right? So as the conversation is going on, all the informations will be stored over here, where it will be stored in the chat history. Okay, so I can say for chat in chat history. Right now, this chat history is containing nothing, but it will contain something. Okay, right now it is having nothing over here, but this chat history will have something later on. Okay, like whatever the conversation that will go on, this chat history will get appended with the information from the user and the response from the system, right? So for chat in chat history, whatever the chat we have, this conversation, okay, will add up with few information such as what user had asked, okay, like this, and what assistant had responded, slash n, okay, what assistant had responded, okay, this thing will be added, and then again there is a new line. Okay, so the conversation will get these information added up from the chat history. All right, now we'll build up the prompt over here. Okay, so now prompt is equals to, we'll define prompt in multiple lines so that we can easily make a rich prompt over here. Now I'll tell it something. Let's say here, let me write a comment also. Okay, construct a prompt with explicit instructions to build uh, or to respond user queries. Okay, right. So here I have to give the prompt, right? So what prompt shall I give? Let me just try to give the prompt over here. You are a helpful assistant, all right, for AI Council. All right. Now we'll say that use the information below to answer user questions. Okay. Naturally, because I want it should look natural, right? It should not look like a machine is responding. Obviously, people know that machine is responding, but people always want the response should be natural without mentioning the source document. Obviously, we need not to mention the source document, right? Next, I'll say, please provide your answers with clear formatting. That is important because if your answer is not in a clear format, it is not bulleted, then it's difficult to understand for the user, right? So I'll say that bullets, use bullet points or numbered lists, right? Wherever applicable. Okay, spelling just try to be correct, but it's fine. Applicable to improve readability. All right. Now here I wrote what I wrote. Use the information below. Where is information? The information is actually over here in the PDF text. Okay, because we are feeding the PDF text to this function. Okay, this function we are feeding the PDF text after accessing it, right? So this is our PDF text. Okay, we are already using formatted text over here, formatted string. So PDF text will go with that. Means whatever the PDF is containing, that will be present over here, right? Now I have to add the context. So for the context, we'll say what conversation so far. What are the conversation that happened till now? Okay, that is represented by this conversation guy. All right. Thereafter, user, what user had asked. Okay, whatever user had asked, that will be represented by this user input, right? Okay, and thereafter, what assistant will respond? Okay, that would be left blank over here. Okay, so that assistant will respond, that will appear after this. All right, now I have to do what same thing that we did earlier. I have to call the model is equals to gen AI dot generative model. Okay, and here I have to define a model. Okay, which model shall I define? I can just use the same model that we have used earlier, 2.0 flash. This works good for me, so I hope this will work good now also. Fine. Next, we have to do what? Here, using this model, I need to generate the response, right? So response is equals to model dot generate content. Okay. So content generation can be controlled by the prompt that we feed over here that we already created there, right? And thereafter assistant reply. What will be the reply? The reply will be the response dot text dot string. All right. So that will be the assistant reply. Thereafter, print a formatted text here, assistant. All right. I want to reply in the next line /n and here assistant reply. All right. So it's like whatever the reply that assistant is making. Okay. From that, we are removing the extra spaces using dot strip. All right. So and then this is a formatted text. So I can put it over assistant reply. All right, and then again I want to go to next line so that everything should not get mixed up. And thereafter we'll do what? We'll just add the conversation into the chat history. So save the conversation, okay, into chat history. Okay, so for that we have chat history. Already we have defined here chat history, right? Where we defined here, we have defined chat history, right? So chat history dot append. Okay, what I need to append? I need to append this guy. Okay, so append what? we have to append the information what user had asked. Okay, what user had asked, that is user input, that is already here. All right. And then what assistant had responded. So assistant, ASISTNT, what assistant had responded, that also I need to store. What is assistant responded? Assistant reply. All right. So these two things are there. Now, if you see, when we are creating this conversation over here, here we had used user and here you had assistant. Now conversation, we had left it blank. Okay. Why? Because see, the user response is something which is represented by this key, right? User key. So I should use over here. This is for chat in chat history. That means it will pick the first chat, second chat, third chat, fourth chat. Now from each chat, take the key called user. All right. That is important, isn't it? So take the key over here, use single quote over here because double quote is enclosing everything. Okay. And same thing for the assistant from the chat. Chat is what? Single chat from the chat history. Okay, take the key assistant. Okay, so that it can be updated. Then only it can take the actual information assistant. I hope everything is correct. If spelling and everything is correct, then it should work. And we have defined the PDF path also. Okay, here I can just use print extracting PDF text. Okay, please, or it's not required anyway. Okay, let's gathering, let's say gathering information. Okay, that's it. So now let's see how it working. I'll just execute this function first, right? That function is already executed and here it is a combining everything. So let's execute it. So now it is saying gathering information, welcome to AI Council chatbot, type exit to quit, but I don't want to quit. So I'll say he. So it should respond something to me. Let's see what, yeah, how can I help you to explore AI career training program today? Okay, so I'll say what are the training programs, okay, do you offer? Okay, so let's say it is gathering the information. So it is saying that we offer career focused training, programming, cutting edge technology, this, that, all those things, right? So tell me about generative AI, right? So let's say what it is doing. Okay, generative AI is a field of focus of creating content like this one, this one, this one. So here are our training covers: core concept, prompt engineering, Gemini, GPT API, LangChain, Flowise, VectorDB, advanced technique, LoRa-based fine tuning and all. For example, you could learn build PDF-based document chatbot with natural responses that we're already doing. Now I can just have an exit if I don't want to continue with this chat, and I press exit. Things are done. So you can say, how can we create a simple chat bot with our private data? Next, we will explore how can we create a UI for this particular chatbot and how can we deploy this thing over the cloud as well. So let's move ahead for the next step in the next project. Okay, so just keep learning and stay tuned. All right, team. So we did till here, right? We know how to use a private PDF file to create a chatbot. Now we will try to create a user interface for same, and that could be a kind of a chatbot using Streamlit that will help us in create a user interface, and our private data in the form of PDF will help us in creating a context for that chatbot to reply when a user asked a question, right? Related to my company, related to my organization, anything, right? So for the same, let's move ahead to our coding environment. This is our VS Code. Here I already created a folder, right? this is a project folder in which all our entity will exist. The first thing that I'll put over here is what is my PDF file. All right, so here is my PDF file that will create a context for my chatbot. Next, we'll create a app over here. So I can create app.py. Okay. Now we will import the required libraries, right? Like for example, Streamlit is required. So import Streamlit as st. Okay, strem. Okay, import Streamlit as st. Then we required fidge. I already told you what is fidge. Fidge is something which will be used to access the content of PDF. And fidge you can import if you have installed the library called PyMuPDF, isn't it? This thing will be there, right? Next, we have to import OS. Okay, OS will be required later on to define your API key, okay, securely and secretly. And then we also require Google Generative AI. So Google dot generative AI as Gen AI. All right, this is done. Thereafter, we have to configure our API key. So for configuring our API key, what we do? We use Gen AI dot configure. As of now, I'm writing like that only. Here, I'll just define API key. That means I'm not using any OS, right? It's API key I'll define right over here. Now, what is our API key? The same API key that we had used earlier, or you can create your new API key, right? So how do we create an API key? To create API key, we need to go to AI Studio, right? And in AI Studio, you can create your API key. Let me show you. So here, these are the API key that we had used earlier, right? So if I want to use the same API key, I can use it. Here are the API key. Let me copy this API key, okay? And then paste it in our development environment, okay? All right. So now API key is there. Thereafter, we can do what? We have to create a function which can extract the PDF. All right. So I have to use def extract PDF. All right. Extract PDF text. Okay. So for this, what we require the PDF path, right? The path of file where my file, path of PDF file where my PDF file exists. Now, how can I access it? It can be accessed using fidge, right? So I'll use fidge dot open. Okay. And what I need to open? I need to open this PDF path. So copy this entity and paste it over here. So this is how you can access the document. Now, in the document, I have to just extract each entity, whatever the text mentioned over there, and store it in a particular variable. So I'll run a loop for page in what? For page in doc, right? That means just iterate through the doc one by one, the content in the doc, and then read those things. How to read it? Page dot get text. This will read the text from there, okay, from the doc, right? And then it will store the information in a single variable that I can define as a full text, right? So full text will get updated with the content of page. So full text plus equals to like this. So it will keep reading the page and will update our full text, and at the end full text will have all the information from my PDF file or the text file, and at the end I'll just return this full text. All right. Thereafter, what we need a function which can generate the response, right? So I need to create a function generate AI response from conversation, right, plus our PDF text context. Okay, this is what we require. So for that, we have a function over here, def generate response. All right. Now to generate response, what it requires few things. It requires the PDF text, right? So PDF underscore text. It also requires the chat history so that there can be a context created based upon what chat already made earlier, and user can, this will just keep the context stored, that on in which particular context the user is basically having the conversation or started the conversation, or what all historical conversation happened, so that better answer can be given. And then it requires what? User input. These three things it requires, right? And then we'll try to update this particular thing. Once it is done, thereafter we will have the main function, right? What main function will do? Main function will be responsible to create your UI and all, right? So let's try to create the UI first, and thereafter we'll update the generate response and check if everything is working or not. So UI can be created through Streamlit. So st.title, okay, I'll give it a name, AI Council Chatbot. So this is your UI title. Thereafter, I need to give the PDF path. So what is PDF path? PDF path, here the PDF is stored at the same location. So we can just give over here the same only name we can give. Okay, nothing else. Okay, because it is at the same location, right? So just give over here the name. All right. Next, what we require? We require PDF text. So PDF text I can extract from here, isn't it? And then I can pass the PDF path over here. So this will be the PDF text that I can use, PDF underscore text. All right. So PDF text we have over here accumulated for this function. All right. Thereafter, we will use over here. We have to create some sort of form, right, where user can feed some detail, right? But first, before going ahead, let's try to execute it and check how is it working. So I'll define if name double equals to main, so that when I run this file, the main function should trigger on its own, right? So let's use double equals to main, right? And I'll call this main function. All right. Now this is a basic thing that has been created. Only the structure has been created. Now I have to run and check whether it is working or not. So I'll go to the location where this thing is existing, right? So this is a chatbot app. So let me just move to the chatbot app. I'll show you. This is our chatbot app. Okay, where app.py. Now I will just start my command prompt over here. Okay, and just a minute, I should give CMD. Okay, and when I give CMD, I launch my command prompt at the given location, right? Then how do we run a Streamlit app? It's a Streamlit run app.py. Okay, so now it is running. It will start running, and once it is started running, I'll just cross check whether everything is running smoothly or not. So this is a Streamlit file. What is expected? It should have the title as of now, only the title, right? Rest thing will check. Okay, so let it be done. Okay, so now my title is appeared. So now we'll modify our code, right? So I'll get back to my coding environment. Now what we require in this thing? We required over here the user input, right? So I'll create user underscore input. That would be equals to what? st.text input, right? Where user can input their question or the prompt, right? So I'll say ask a question about AI Council career focused training. All right. So this is what we will do, right? So this will be the user input. Once we have the user input, thereafter we'll create a submit button, where user can just press and get the result. Okay, click and get the result. So that can be st.form submit button. Okay, and here I'll do what? Send. Just keep the thing sent. Now let's save it and let's check what exactly we have, right? So let's get back to the UI. Okay, I'll refresh it. So if you see, we're getting an error over here, right? Here I have the things, but button is not showing. Here I can enter anything like what is training, but obviously this will not work as of now. But here button I'm not getting. Why I'm not getting the button? What we want, that you can see st.form we had given. That means there is a form kind of here there is a form instance. When I click on this button, the information in the form should be submitted, right? So for that purpose we have to create, that means these everything will be a part of form. That's why we have to create over here with st.form. Okay, that means there is a form that I want to create, which will be identified by a key, let's say chat form. This will be the chat form. Okay, and once everything gets submitted, I want to clear the text box. So I'll use clear on submit is equals to true, right? So this will be the part of our form, these two things. Okay, now I'll again save it. Okay, I'll get back over here and I'll check if it is working or not. Okay, so it is running now, it's fine. Okay, key. Okay, hello. So when I click send, you can see this thing gets clear. So this is working very smoothly. Next step is what? We have to just add few more entity over here. Like when submit button is clicked, it should start generating the output and all. So we'll work on now the generative AI part over here, which will generate the answer based upon the question asked by the user. So let's move ahead for the next part. So what we want, that when user clicked on the submit button, that means if submit, right? If submit, and we also need to check the field should not be blank, right? Because user can press the submit button without entering anything as well, like this. So in that case, my application should not behave abnormally. So I need to put the condition over here if it is submitted and your user input, whatever the user input is there, right? User input is dot strip, that means remove any kind of extra spaces. Okay, dot strip will remove any lagging or leading spaces. Any space that means before the text or after the text will be removed is not equals to, okay, blank. If it is not equals to blank, then go for the next part. So next part is what will be the generate response. Okay, take this thing from here, put it over here, right? So here this will give me the answer. Answer is equal to generate response. Now this guy will require what? PDF text is fine. Now chat history. So where is our chat history? Okay, so here I have to define something so that chat history can be there, right? So what should we do, right? So for the chat history, we'll click create over here, initialize, okay, chat history in our session state. Okay, in a current session state, we'll insert chat history, right? So if here I'll give the kind of condition, if chat history, right? Obviously chat history and everything will be created over here in this section, right? So if chat history not in, okay, st dot session state, okay, if it is not there, right, then we will do what? We'll define a chat history over here, st dot session state, current session state. That is important because I don't want the chat history of one person should kind of affect the chat history of other person. So it should be session dependent. Okay, only one session dependent. Like I suppose I started chat now, then after some time I close the chat, then after 1 hour again I'm starting chat. So whatever the chat that I did earlier, okay, should not affect my current chat, right? So like when the session ends, chat history will also get removed. So dot chat history is equals to, as of now, make it blank. Okay, so this is our chat history, right? So as of now, it is obviously blank. I'll just copy and paste it over here. Okay, now it is done. Okay, so now we have to do what? Whatever the answer generated, that thing should be appended to the chat history. Okay, so st dot this one, this is a list, right? If you see, so this should append what it should append. It should append the few things like what user had asked. So user input colon, what is user input? This is your user input. Okay, whatever user had asked, that should get appended, as well as whatever the assistant had responded. Okay, that should also get what assistant had responded, answer. Okay, so in the chat history, this thing should be appended. All right, now we have to kind of a chat history also have to respond display, right? Like for example, if suppose someone is doing the chat, so someone asks the question over here. Let's say question, or you can say chat initiated, right? So user asked something like over here, you can say user, right? So let me just remove this thing. It could be user, right? So here user said he, right? So assistant will respond, right? What assistant will respond? It will respond, hello, how can I assist you? How can I assist you? Okay, like this, right? Now again user will say that tell me about training program. All right, so it should just assistant will respond that we have these are the training program like data science, ML ops, right? Generative AI, like that, right? Then user will say tell me about the fee, right? Then again assistant will respond with some of the information, right? Now what we want, that these all information should be stored in the chat history, as well as it should be displayed. Okay, it should not be like that user asks this thing, okay, and this answer, this thing is displaying and others disappeared. No, everything should be displayed. Okay, so that's why we have over here the chat history that we are creating, right? Now let's say how can we display it. All right, so let's move ahead to display this thing over here. That means we have to display all the chat history that will represents the past conversation that happened, isn't it? If I want that all the chat history should be appeared, what I can do here, I have to create after the form, outside the form actually. Here I have to create, let me just use it. Okay, here I have to create the display chat history, okay, in reverse order. Okay, that means the first question asked should keep first, right? That means the latest one should be at the last. Okay, so we'll say that if there is a chat history present, if it is not present, obviously it will not give me anything. But if it is present, okay, if it is present, then do what? Then run a loop. Okay, then only it can show me everything for chat in this one, chat history. Okay, run a loop to show me all the details, right? This guy. Okay, and then I want to show the details. So st dot markdown. Okay, I can also use text, but markdown will give me a better view, right? So here I can define over here uh, kind of a u. U will represent the user, right? What user had asked, right? And thereafter I can use over formatted text f, right? And thereafter from the chat, okay, from the chat, okay, I can pick the keyword user, right? Whatever the user had asked. So in the chat over here, we are kind of storing the value as a user, so I can use over here, or I should use user input, right? Or here I should use actually user only, right? Why user? User input is this one. Okay, here user input, but the key representing the user input, we are appending it with a key user. So let's access this particular key, right? And this is a formatted text. F is already added. U I want to show in a bold letter, so just add double asterisk. All right. Now again, I want to show the assistant response. So assistant dot this one here, assistant, right? And what is a key representing the assistant? This is a key from the chat. Now things are done. Okay, so at least user interface is created. Let's move and check how is it behaving. As of now, generative part will not work, but let's see how is it behaving. So let me ask a question over here. Right? So it is assistant is showing what? None. Okay. Now I'll ask it, how are you? Because this one is now added to the chat history. So when I click it, this will not go away. Right? I'll ask it, tell me about training programs, right? I'll ask it. Right. So now it is almost 70% done. Only we have to complete the generative AI part so that assistant response can also be shown. Right. So let's move to the generative AI part so that I can show the assistant response. So we'll just complete this particular function. Now this function is same that we did earlier. Right. Here what we need over here to create a prompt. Okay. So let's try to create a prompt. Okay. Prompt, it will be a long, kind of a long text. So I'll use over here 3 quotes so that I can have the long text easily done. Right. So what I want, I'll say that you are a helpful assistant of AI Council. All right. Thereafter, I'll say use the information below where to answer user question. Okay, where is the information? The information I'll give through PDF text. Okay, questions naturally. That means it should it should work like that someone human is responding. Okay, that means more natural without mentioning the source document, right? Without mentioning the source document. All right, right. Thereafter, I'll say over here, please. That means I'll just kind of make it look good. So please provide your answers with clear formatting. Okay, that is also important. Use bullet points, right? Or numbered lists wherever applicable to improve readability. All right, this is what we do. And where is my context? The context is over here, PDF text. All right, so this much we did. Right now, based on this, let's try to check how is it working. I'll save it. I'll get back over here. Okay, and we'll check it out. Okay, I'll refresh it. Okay, I'll say he. So as of now, it is saying what? None. Why is it saying none? Because I had given the prompt. I have not defined any model, and I have not, just prompt is given. Okay, just prompt, this is a variable. So this particular prompt should go to whom? This should go to model, right? So that's why now we have to define the model over here. So what is a model? Model is Gen AI dot generative model. Okay, and which model we were using till now? It's 2.0 Gemini Flash, right? So Gemini 2.0 Flash. All right. Thereafter, this prompt will be given to whom? Will be given to this model. So I'll give what? Model dot generate content. Okay, and then I have to give the prompt over here, right? So when I get the prompt, thereafter, here the output will be what? Response dot text. So return what? Response dot text dot string. That means remove any extra spaces if it is generated. So let's save this guy. Let's get back and check how is it behaving now, right? So I'll do it. Okay, I'll ask he. Let's see if it is giving me any result or not. So as I said, he, hello, AI Council offers career focused training program, cutting edge this one. So many things it had given. Okay, so it is not having any context kind of thing. Okay, whatever I ask, let's say I'm asking what training programs. Okay, let's see. As I asked he, it should respond me, hello, how can I help you? But not. Now I asked it, what are training programs? So hello, I am here to provide information. AI Council offering this one, curriculum highlight, so many things, right? Those things which I don't need, right? Now let's say I ask it, how can I contact? Okay, so let's say I want only the contact information. Okay, but if I'll ask this guy, you will see what I receive. How can I contact? So I can contact, it will give me so many information. Okay, and not even the contact, something randomly it is giving. Why is it so? It is because the context is not well defined over here. Okay, it is reading the prompt, getting this thing, and just generating the response. Okay, the context it is not getting properly. All right, so how it can get the context, right? So for the context, it will require the chat history that we are already feeding over here, isn't it? Okay, whatever the chat happened that we are already storing. Okay, whatever the chat happened that already we are storing, isn't it? That's why, when you ask a new question, the older information are also present over here. Why is it so? Because we are storing all the context, but we are not making use of it, isn't it? So we need to do what? We need to do something so that the context can be used. All right, so for that, I'll use over here, right here, let's say I'll define for chat in this chat history. When we are feeding the chat history over here, okay, or chat in chat history. Okay, like when we called it, see, when we are calling over here, this guy, generate response. So to the generate response here, we had given the chat history also, right? We are already providing the chat history. So now we will pick that chat, each chat from this that chat history, and we'll try to store the information in a conversation. Conversation. Okay. So there'll be a blank conversation initially. Now this conversation will append up with the or added up with the chat history, right? So for that, we'll do what? We'll add it up with what user asked. Okay, so what user asked, that is present in the chat. Okay, and the key for the user is what is the key? We have defined the key over here, user. Okay, this is a user key. So chat user. All right, nice. And thereafter, what assistant responded? Okay, that we can use /n, right? Assistant, okay, colon, right here, chat. Okay, and thereafter your chat. And what is the key of this assistant? We had already defined the key as assistant only. I'll copy this thing and we'll paste it over here. All right. And then again /n for new line. Okay. Now these are what the formatted text. Okay. This curly braces. So I have to use F over here. Right. So this will be added to the conversation. Now this conversation will be the part of our prompt. Just after the PDF text, I'll add over here conversation so far. Okay. So that in the prompt, we are feeding the conversation that these are the conversation which already been made. Isn't it? Right. And thereafter, we will give over here the user input. Okay, what user had asked. As of now, in the prompt, I'm giving the PDF text, but I'm not giving the user input. So let's say if I'll give the user input over here now. So user colon user input, whatever the user had responded. And the assistant should respond over here like this. Okay, after this, assistant response will appear. I just left it blank, and this is the whole prompt we are giving, so that using this prompt, it will understand that it needs to check this PDF text. This is a conversation that already happened till now. This is the user input specifically, and then the assistant will respond. All right. So now let's save it, and let's try to re-execute this thing. Okay. All right. Now I'll ask it, I'll just give it a greeting, he. So now it is more specific. Okay. So do you provide training on generative AI? Let's check. Yes, we do provide it. This is very specific, right? Now, so what topics will be covered? So here I had not mentioned generative AI. Just I'm mentioning what topics will be covered, just to check whether it is making use of context or not. Okay, because these all information are present in the conversation, right? So that means this should create a context. Let's see how is it behaving. So I asked what topics will be covered. So now the training program offers basic topics. So it had given the complete details over here, right? The complete details, right? So let me just ask it more specifically. Okay, it is using the context, but not that good. We can change the model to be more accurate, but as of now, it's fine. Okay, so here, what topics will be covered? So now it is saying that these topics will be covered. Okay, now I'll say what fee of the course. Okay, so it has given me that you can contact over it because the fee information I had not given in the browser. Okay, and then I'll say over here buy. Okay, now let's say we'll tweak the program a bit and check the effect. Okay, let's say if I'll not use this conversation, okay, like this, I'll comment it. So multi-line comment. Okay, let's say I don't want to use this conversation. Okay, and I don't want to use this thing as well. Okay, let's say I'll remove it. Okay, and I'll save it. Only user input I'm giving. I saved it, right? Now what happened? Let's check. As of now, it is a little bit more specific and more contextual. But if I'll not pass the conversation till now, I'm just giving the user input. Okay, so now if I'll again check it, how is it behaving? I'll refresh this page. As I refresh this page, I'll ask it he. So it should greet me. Now I'll ask yes, I am interested. Okay, now it is giving me this thing, right? Now I'll ask it, what can I expect in MLOps? Okay, it is giving me the hint. So now it is also very much specific, right? It's not showing kind of some random output, right? I just said bye. So now it is not showing me any kind of random output, even if I am not. Okay, you can check in your case when you have very large data. Here I have a very small PDF. So whenever you have a very large data, this conversation can be helpful. Okay, here it is not adding any value, but this is your optional thing that you can try in case if without feeding up the historical conversation, things are not working good for you, you can try with this conversation in your prompt. Okay, the historical conversation in your prompt. Okay, this will help in creating a context for this generative application, the or you can say the chatbot application. All right. So you can check your application with this or without this, right? And check in which case it is working good on different kinds of data. You can just work with a larger PDF, like suppose 50-page PDF and all. So in that case, this can be very helpful. Okay, for a smaller PDF, it is not that much required. So this is done as of now. Now we want what? We want this thing to be deployed over the server. Okay. So which server we use? Like last time we will use same render server, right? So for the render server, what we required? There are few modifications that we have to do over here. First, if I'm going to the server, okay, it is important that this particular application when goes to server, it should go with all the dependencies, right? That means all the, like, what are the dependencies we have a Streamlit, we have PyMuPDF, we have a Google generative AI. So how can I make sure that all the dependencies should get installed properly? I can make sure that all the dependencies should get installed properly by creating a file requirements txt, right? And here I'll mention all the requirements, like I need Streamlit, I need PyMU PDF, okay? And then I required Google Generative AI, Google Generative GENERI, Google Generative AI, okay? This is what I required, isn't it? So these things should be installed on my server, okay? Then only my application can behave well. Okay. Apart from that, we also want that my API keys should not be visible like this, right? So if I want my API keys should not be visible like this, what should I do? I will access the API key, okay, from the environmental variable. So os dot get environment, okay, right? And here I'll create an environmental variable with a name Gen AI API key. All right. And thereafter, this thing will be mentioned over here. All right. So now it is done, right? So once it is done, this is ready for the deployment for on the render server, right? So next we'll try to deploy it on the render server. So just finish it to here and thereafter move to the render server, right? So for the render, we'll go ahead to the render. Let me show you and check if it is running on a online platform or not. So render, I'll open up, right? I'll go here, all right, and then get started for free. Okay, but before doing this, what we need, we also need this thing to be, that means the code, the program that we have over here. Okay, this should be present here, this should be present in my GitHub, isn't it? So we have to create a repository in GitHub, and thereafter we have to upload this thing to the GitHub, and from there my render server can easily access my files. All right, so let's do the first step. That means we'll go to GitHub, right, and we'll upload this thing. So here is my GitHub, right? I'll create a new repository. Okay, the name of that repository I can give over a chatbot. Okay. So this is my repository that I'm going to create. Okay, and in this repository I'll post my file. So create a new file, or I will just click on upload existing. So all the three files that we have stored in my system, isn't it? We'll do what? We'll just drag and drop it over here. So what are those three files? There's a PDF file, there's an app file, and there's a requirements.txt file. Just proceed to GitHub. Wait the change. So my GitHub is now having all these three files available over here. Right. Now we'll go to render. Right. And in the render, we'll just click on over here, right? That is my existing project. In this project already 2 applications are running, 2 web services are running. I want one new web service, so click on new web service. All right, and here I have to give the path. So from where I can access path? I can access path from here, right? Paste it over here, okay, and then public repository I'll select. All right, and then click on connect. Okay, so this production is selected. Python 3 is language. This is my server location. This will install my requirement.txt. And how to start? To start the program, what we do? We use start run app.py. Okay, this is what we had given in the command prompt. If you notice, this is something we had given in command prompt, and thereafter our application is started. So same command this guy should also know. And then free tile I have to select, and then I have to create our what? The environmental variable, right? So with what name shall I create environmental variable? With this name I should create, right? Because this is what it can access, isn't it? So let's go here and create it. And what should be the value? The value it can have from the actual API, right? So actual API is on AI Studio, right? So I'll go to AI Studio. All right. And here I have the API keys. Okay, I'll just copy one of the API key from here. All right, get back here and add our API key. Everything is there. And then I'll click on deploy. It will take few minutes to deploy, and thereafter I get my web address. Using that web address, we can easily do what? We can easily access our application, isn't it? So let's give it few minutes of time to deploy it, and thereafter we'll access our application over cloud. All right. Now, if you see, your build is successful and your service is running live, right? So we get a web address. If I click on this web address, that is your chatbot aicouncil.onrender.com. Okay. So when I click it, I should get my application. So if you see, earlier my application was running on a local host, right? That means it is running only in my system. But now my application can be accessible from any part of the globe, okay, because now it is running on the internet. Okay, I get a kind of a web address, and using that web address, anyone can access my application. Okay, let's check like if it is working good or not. So I'll say he. Okay, so I'll say I am a Python developer. What course should I take? Okay, so here I'm just making the question a little bit more tuned, right? Not a straight question. So when someone will ask this kind of question, then that conversation and context can play important role. Given the background, you can just go with this part. Okay, these are the courses that you can go with, right? It's responding very well, right? Now, tell me about first one. Okay, let's say first one is what? Data science. Let's check like whether this is making that conversation useful or not. Like we had used this thing, right? In your thing. See here, I had used the conversation over here. Okay, right, conversation, and then we are just passing this conversation in the prompt. So let's say it is making use of that conversation or not. Okay, I just want to check. I'm not sure like whether it will make use of that or not, but let's see. Okay, so yeah, tell me the first one. Yeah, right, it is working. Okay, so as I said, tell me about first one. So as I said, tell me about first one. It is just picking up the data science and it is responding for data science, right? It's not responding for others. Why is it possible? It is possible because we had given the conversation over here, the past conversation. So from that past conversation, it can easily pick what was the first thing that it mentioned, right? So now it's working very cool over the cloud space as well, and everything is very smooth. Next, we'll try to build a simple app, simple website, okay, and we'll try to integrate our chatbot into our website. So stay tuned for the next learning that we are going to start very soon. Take care. Have a happy hacking. All right, team. So now we will start with the last part of this whole series. We need to integrate our custom chatbot with our website. See, I will not tell you how to create a website because this course, this particular tutorial is not about creating a website. It is about creating a chatbot and integrating a chatbot on a website. But I'll give you a sample code of a website. Okay, using that sample code, you can test your chatbot. All right. Or if you already have a website, you can integrate your chatbot on your website very easily. All right. So here what we do, we already covered the Gemini API. We had seen how Gemini API can be used for text generation, for image description. We created a user interface for text and image description. Then you created a chatbot. And thereafter, we also deployed our chatbot over the cloud. We created the UI as well. The last part is like we have a chatbot ready with us, right? This is our chatbot which is ready with us. This is actually working also. Everything like if I ask it like, tell me the contact info. So this chatbot is actually working and it will respond, right? So let's say it has responded. Now I want this kind of feature in my website, right? So what do we do? First of all, I need a website. I'll share this website link with you. This is a website that we are going to use. It's a very simple website in which we have some chat icon. Okay, there is a chat icon will be there. There'll be chat pop-up will be there, and there are the chat pop-up header will be there, and thereafter using JS and CSS we have created a chatbot icon with a chat pop-up, and that chat pop-up will be used for what? For a chatbot. All right. So let me have this code. This is a code representing my website. All right. It's a very simple website, right? So thereafter I'll go to Replit. On the Replit, I'll create a new app. Okay. I'll select HTML, CSS, and I'll give it a name. What name shall I give? Let's say website. Okay. Or you can say my website chat. Okay, then I'll create an app over here. All right, and thereafter this is going to be a HTML file, right? So I'll just copy and paste the code of my website over here. Okay, if you are a web developer, you can write your own script. It's totally up to you, right? So once it is done, I'll check how is it working. I'll just run it. So when I executed it, I got a sample website over here. And if you see at the corner, I can see a chat icon. Now when I click it, it is kind of a pop-up that we can see, but it's looking little large, right? So let's modify its size. So I'll just scroll down. Here's a pop-up. Height I can make it, let's say 300, and width is 300, right? Height I can make it 500. This is a small change I will make so that it should look little good. Let me just refresh it. Okay, and now, yeah, it's working better. Now, in this thing, what I want the power of chatbot. So to give it a power of chatbot, we will use just one line of code, which is called iframe, right? So I'll paste it over here. Where should I paste? I'll paste it over here. In the case of for div chat pop-up. Okay, here this thing will be replaced by our URL. Which URL? This URL. Okay, which is actually running, right? It is actually responding. So that I'll replace with that thing. As of now, let's say if I added it, save it, and thereafter I'll take the preview of it. All right. So when I click over here, okay, so it is saying not found. Why it is saying not found? Because obviously the URL right now is that we are using is not working. Now I'll take this URL from here, right, and we'll paste it over here. All right. Save this guy. Again, refresh this guy. Okay. And then let's click over here. So now my chatbot is working good, right? So let's say I'll ask it a question. I'll say first, hey. Okay. So now it is responding, right? Now I'll ask it, how can I skill myself? All right. So let's say skill yourself AI related field, this one, you can say data science, artificial intelligence, you can learn from AI council, right? So now I'll ask it, what are key pointers and feel of generative AI? Let's send it. Okay, so it is saying what are key pointers and field. So assistant, your key pointers of generative AI, creating a new content class. This one, please contact AI council to inquire. So now my chatbot is really working very nicely, right? Best you can just modify this code to make this thing looks more better and more good. This tutorial is just to make you understand how can we easily create a chatbot using our own private data, and then how can we integrate it with our own website. This kind of chatbot you may have seen a lot of times on a lot of website. Now you can create it for your own, right? So thanks for watching, keep learning, and happy learning. Take care, have a